The who of the teacher, who teaches, is important because we teach who we are, always. I think you can test this empirically. I was recently invited to go back to my alma mater, the college from which I graduated 40 years ago. And on that campus, alive and well, thank God, are three of the great teachers that I had when I was 18 to 22 years old. And the college did a brilliant thing. They invited those three men, now in their late 70s and early 80s, and me, to sit on a panel for 2 hours in front of several hundred people and talk about teaching, talk about mentoring. And it was a remarkable occasion. For one thing, I was able to look at all of them and say, 40 years ago, you guys were a lot older than me than you are today, which is one of the wonderful things to look back on. But in the middle of that conversation, somebody from the audience said, "Parker, what courses did you have from these three great professors?" And I could not remember even the title of a course, let alone the information in that course that I doubtless learned at the time. Because the impact of those three teachers on my life had nothing to do with course titles or course content. It had everything to do with the selfhood of those three teachers. These were three people of great integrity, and they were my teachers because I wanted to be like them when I grew up. It turned out ultimately, of course, that I had to find my own sense of self. But the impact of any teacher is ultimately from selfhood and not from course content. I don't mean to belittle course content. These courses are the vehicles through which some good things can happen. And yes, we need knowledge, and yes, we need theory, and yes, we need applications of all of that to the world. But teaching is such an exchange of deep to deep, of one self to another self, if it's going to work, that who teaches turns out to be an absolutely critical question. Now, it's a question that's never addressed in schools of education. It's never addressed in higher education generally. In higher education generally, the who, the self, the subjectivity is swept under the rug. It's regarded as dangerous. It's regarded as something to be factored out so that we can be objective. But that's wrong. It's wrong not only because it creates deformed teaching and learning, unreal teaching and learning, but it's wrong because it's not real. It's not the way life happens. The investment of self is how we know things in the first place, and the investment of the teacher's self in the subject and in the students is how learning happens in every case I've ever seen.